Park Gina stood at the window of her small room on the diplomatic ship and watched the stars pass by. She was 42 years old, with kind eyes and a warm smile that had ended wars back on Earth. Now she was flying toward the Valari Empire, the most powerful civilization in the known galaxy. Carrying nothing but hope and a message of peace, the ship was called the Horizon's Promise. It had no weapons. The United Terran Council had made sure of that. They wanted the Valari to see that humans came as friends, not enemies. Gina agreed with this choice. She believed that trust must be given before it could be received. She thought about her family back on Earth. Her mother had cried when she left. Her younger brother, a soldier, had hugged her tight and whispered, "Come back safe." Gina had promised she would. She intended to keep that promise. The Valari Empire ruled 17 star systems. They had controlled this part of the galaxy for 10,000 years. Their ships were massive. Their weapons could destroy planets. When they first detected human radio signals 50 years ago, they laughed. Humans were primitive, weak, not worth their attention, but humans grew fast. They learned faster. Within 40 years, they had built ships that could travel between stars. The Valari stopped laughing. They began to watch. Emperor Varth, ruler of the Valari, decided to meet these strange creatures from the small blue planet. He sent a message to Earth, inviting them to send a representative. The United Terran Council chose Gina without argument. She was the best they had. The journey took 3 weeks. Gina spent most of that time studying. She learned the Valari language until she could speak it without accent. She memorized their customs, their history, their art. She wanted to show them respect. She wanted them to see that humans valued their culture. When the ship arrived at Nethera Prime, the Valari throne world, Gina was ready. The planet was beautiful. Great cities of white stone stretched toward purple skies. Forests of silver trees covered the mountains. Rivers of crystal-clear water wound through valleys filled with flowers that glowed softly in the twilight. Gina was taken to the Grand Palace, where Emperor Varth waited on his throne of black metal. He was tall, with gray skin and 4 eyes that seemed to look through her rather than at her. Around him stood his council, 12 lords and ladies who ruled the empire alongside him. "You are the human ambassador," Varth said. His voice was deep and cold. Gina bowed low, showing respect. "I am, Your Majesty. I bring greetings from Earth and from all humanity. We come in peace, seeking friendship between our peoples." Varth studied her for a long moment. Then he waved his hand. "You may stay. We will talk." The talks lasted 6 months. At first, the Valari treated Gina like a curiosity, a pet from a primitive world. But slowly, things changed. She won them over with her patience, her wisdom, and her genuine interest in their ways. She attended their festivals and learned their dances. She sat with their scholars and discussed philosophy. She visited their schools and told human stories to Valari children, who listened with wide eyes and asked 1,000 questions. Lord Keth, the youngest member of the High Council, became her friend. He was different from the others, more open, more curious. He told her that not all Valari believed in empire and conquest. Some dreamed of a galaxy united in peace. "Perhaps humans and Valari can build that future together," Gina said. Keth smiled. "Perhaps we can." A treaty was prepared. It would establish trade between Earth and the Valari worlds. It would allow human students to study on Nethera Prime and Valari scholars to visit Earth. It was not everything Gina had hoped for, but it was a beginning. The night before the signing ceremony, Gina could not sleep. She walked through the palace gardens, breathing in the sweet scent of alien flowers. She felt proud of what she had accomplished. She had proven that humans could stand among the stars as equals. She did not see the shadows, Following her, Emperor Varath had been listening to whispers. His advisors, jealous of Gina's success, had filled his mind with fear. Humans breed too fast, they said. They adapt too quickly. They learn too well. Give them peace, and they will grow strong. Give them time, and they will challenge us. Varath was old. He had ruled for 200 years. He had crushed 100 rebellions and conquered a dozen worlds. He knew only one way to deal with threats: eliminate them before they grow. The next morning, Gina was arrested. Soldiers came to her room at dawn and dragged her from her bed. She was taken to the Grand Plaza, the same plaza where the treaty was supposed to be signed. A crowd had gathered. Thousands of Valari watched in silence as Gina was brought before the Emperor. "Part Gina of Earth," Varath announced, his voice echoing across the plaza. "You have been found guilty of espionage against the Valari Empire. The punishment is death." Gina's heart pounded, but she did not beg. She stood straight and looked at the Emperor with steady eyes. "I am no spy," she said clearly. "I came here for peace. I came here because I believed we could be friends. If you kill me, you kill that hope." Varath raised his hand. "Humans have no hope. Know your place." The blade fell. Gina's body was placed in a cargo container and sent back to Earth. With it came a message from the Emperor. Know your place. Humans. Lord Keth watched the ship leave from his window. Tears ran down his gray face. He had tried to stop it. He had begged the council for mercy. They had laughed at him. He did not know what would happen next. But he knew, deep in his heart, that the Emperor had made a terrible mistake. He had seen the fire in Gina's eyes, the same fire he had seen in every human he met. Humans did not accept defeat. Humans did not forget. And humans never, ever forgave those who hurt their own. The stars suddenly seemed darker, and Keth felt afraid for the first time in his life. The cargo container arrived on Earth on a cold morning in November. Admiral Beak Suho was waiting at the landing pad when the shuttle doors opened. He was a tall man with gray hair and a face that had seen too many battles. He had known Gina since she was young. He had served with her brother during the Europa crisis. He had believed, like everyone else, that her mission would bring peace. The container was plain metal, the kind used for shipping supplies. Suho walked toward it slowly, his boots heavy on the concrete. Two soldiers opened it for him. Inside, wrapped in a simple white cloth, was the body of Park Gina. Suho stood very still for a long time. He did not cry. He had forgotten how to cry years ago. But something inside him went cold and hard, like iron being forged in fire. The message from Emperor Varath was attached to the container. Suho read it once. Then he folded it carefully and put it in his pocket. "Know your place," he whispered to himself. "We will show you our place." For 3 days, Earth was silent. No news broadcasts. No public statements. No angry demands for justice. The Valari spies who watched Earth reported that humans were mourning. They sent messages to Emperor Varath, telling him that the humans had been broken. That fear had taken hold of them. Varath was pleased. He had crushed the spirit of these primitive creatures. Now they would stay quiet and small, as they should. He was wrong. Behind the silence, something was happening. Something the Valari could not see or understand. President Yoon Do-hwan was a quiet man. He did not give long speeches or make grand promises. He led by action, not words. When he received news of Gina's death, he sat alone in his office for 1 hour. Then he called an emergency meeting of the United Terran Council. Every nation sent their leaders. Old enemies sat next to each other. Countries that had fought wars for centuries now shared the same table. For the first time in human history, there were no arguments, no disagreements, no political games. Do-hwan stood before them and placed a photograph on the table. It showed Gina smiling, taking the day she left for Nethera Prime. "They killed her," Do-hwan said simply. "They killed her and sent her back like garbage. They told us to know our place." He looked around the room at every face. "What is our answer?" The vote was unanimous. Every hand raised. Every voice agreed. Earth would respond. The next day, Do-hwan made one phone call. It went to a small house by the sea in Korea, where an old woman lived alone with her books and her memories. Dr. Han Yuri was 70 years old. She had white hair and thin hands that shook slightly when she poured her tea. 30 years ago, she had designed the theoretical framework for faster-than-light travel. Her work had allowed humanity to reach the stars. Then she had retired. She said she was tired of building things that might be used for war. She wanted to grow vegetables and watch the ocean. When Do-hwan called, she listened without speaking. He told her about Gina. He told her about the message. He told her what he needed. When he finished, there was a long silence. "I swore I would never build weapons," Yuri said finally. "I know," Do-hwan replied. Another silence. Then Yuri asked a question. "The woman they killed, was she kind?" Do-hwan thought of Gina's smile, her gentle voice, her endless patience. "She was the kindest person I ever knew." Yuri was quiet for a moment more. Then she spoke, and her voice was strong despite her age. "Send a car. I will need my old research files. And coffee. Lots of coffee." Project Reckoning began that night. Earth's orbital shipyards had been building exploration vessels, peaceful ships designed to study distant stars. Now they had a new purpose. Workers labored around the clock, sleeping in shifts, driven by a cold determination that needed no orders. Yuri worked from a laboratory deep underground. She had a team of 50 young engineers who called her grandmother and hung on her every word. She pushed them hard, harder than they had ever been pushed. "The Valari think we are children," she told them. "They think we need 100 years to become a threat. We will prove them wrong in 18 months." The ships they built were unlike anything Earth had created before. They were fast and deadly, designed for one purpose: war. Each one carried weapons that Yuri had invented in secret years ago, weapons she had hoped would never be needed. Admiral Suho oversaw the military preparations. He recruited soldiers from every nation, training them in techniques the Valari had never seen. He studied every report, every piece of information about Valari tactics and weaknesses, and every night before he slept, he took out the message from Emperor Varoth and read it again. "Know your place." Those 3 words burned in his mind like fire. Across Earth, people worked in silence. Factories produced materials. Scientists solved problems that should have taken decades. Engineers built machines that pushed the limits of physics. No one complained. No one asked why. Everyone knew. Gina had gone to the stars carrying hope for all humanity. She had believed in peace, in friendship, in a better future. The Valari had murdered her for it. Now humanity would answer. 18 months after Gina's death, the first warship rolled out of the orbital shipyard. It was massive, bristling with weapons, painted black as space itself. Admiral Suho stood on the observation deck and watched it float against the backdrop of stars. President Do-hwan stood beside him. "What shall we name it?" Do-hwan asked. Suho thought of a kind woman with a gentle smile who had believed that peace was possible. "Gina's memory," he said. "And God help anyone who stands in its way." Captain Shin Tai-woo stood on the bridge of the Gina's memory and watched the stars stretch and bend around him. In a few moments, his ship would drop out of faster-than-light travel, and the war would begin. He was 35 years old, with a scar on his left cheek from a Valari raid that had killed his younger sister 5 years ago. He had joined the military to protect people. Now he was here to deliver a message that the Valari would never forget. Behind his ship flew 46 others. The entire First Fleet of the United Terran Navy. Each one was crewed by men and women who had volunteered for this mission. Each one carried the same cold fire in their hearts. 30 seconds to arrival, his navigator reported. Her name was Sho Minji, and her hands were steady on the controls despite the tension in the air. Tai Wu nodded. He pressed the button that connected him to every ship in the fleet. All hands, this is the captain. We are about to enter Valari space. Remember why we are here. Remember Park Gina. Remember what they did. But also remember who we are. We are not monsters. We fight with honor. We do not kill those who cannot fight back. We are humans. Let us show them what that means. He closed the channel and took a deep breath. Drop us out. The stars snapped back the points of light. Before them hung Kethis Station, a Valari border outpost the size of a small city. It floated in the darkness, covered with lights, surrounded by a dozen patrol ships. For 3 long seconds, nothing happened. The Valari had not expected visitors. They had certainly not expected 47 human warships, appearing out of nowhere. Then alarms began to sound. The station commander's face appeared on Tuwu's screen. He was a Valari officer with angry eyes and a voice full of pride. Human vessels, you have entered Valari space without permission. This is an act of war. Leave now or be destroyed. Tai Wu smiled, but there was no warmth in it. War? He said, you started this war when you murdered our diplomat. You sent her home in a cargo container. You told us to know our place. He leaned forward, his eyes hard. We know our place now. Our place is wherever we decide it is. The transmission was broadcast on all frequencies, sent to every Valari ship and station within range. Let them hear it. Let them know that humanity had come. Target their weapons and engines, Tai Wu ordered. Leave their life support alone. We want prisoners, not corpses. The battle lasted 11 minutes. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, surrounding the station and cutting it off from escape. Valari patrol ships tried to fight back, but they were outmatched. Human weapons were faster, more accurate, more devastating than anything they had faced before. When it was over, Kethis Station was dark and drifting. Its weapons were destroyed. Its engines were dead. But its crew was alive, watching in shock as human soldiers boarded their station and took control. Tai Wu walked through the captured station with Minji at his side. Valari prisoners stared at them with fear and confusion. They thought we would come screaming for blood, Minji said quietly. Some of our people wanted that, Tai Wu admitted. But Admiral Suho was clear. We are not here for revenge. We are here for justice. There's a difference. The news of Kethis Station spread across the Valari Empire like wildfire. For 10,000 years, no enemy had ever penetrated their borders. Now humans, those primitive creatures from the small blue planet, had done it in a single day. Emperor Varoth was furious. He ordered his fleets to hunt down the human invaders and destroy them completely. But the humans did not fight the way the Valari expected. General Choi Yumbi was the tactical commander of the campaign. She was a small woman with short hair and eyes that missed nothing. She had studied every battle the Valari had ever fought. She knew their strategies better than they knew themselves, and she used that knowledge to tear them apart. Human forces did not attack population centers. They avoided civilian ships. Instead, they struck at military targets with surgical precision. Supply depots vanished overnight. Communication arrays went silent. Patrol routes became death traps. The Valari tried to adapt, but humans adapted faster. When the Valari changed their codes, humans broke them within hours. When they set ambush, humans somehow knew and turned the traps against them. Yumbi fought dirty. She used psychological warfare, broadcasting images of Park Gina's execution alongside footage of Valari defeats. She attacked at night when Valari soldiers slept. She spread false information that made Valari commanders doubt each other. They have ruled for 10,000 years, she told her staff. They have forgotten what it means to fight someone who truly wants to win. We will remind them. Week after week, the human fleet advanced. They took system after system, not through destruction, but through precision. Valari admirals who had never lost a battle suddenly found themselves outmaneuvered and outhought. Lord Keth watched the reports from his estate on Nethera Prime. He had expected the humans to come. He had not expected them to be so terrifyingly good at war, and yet, even in the midst of battle, they showed mercy. Prisoners were treated fairly. Wounded enemies were given medical care. Civilians were protected. They could burn our worlds, Keth said to himself. They could murder billions in revenge. But they do not. He thought of Gina, of her kind smile and gentle words. He thought of what she had told him about humanity. We are capable of great darkness, she had said. But we choose the light. Now Keth understood. The humans were not fighting out of hatred. They were fighting because they had to, because someone they loved had been taken from them. Because they could not let that crime go unanswered. He made his decision. That night, he sent a secret message to the human fleet, offering them everything he knew about the Emperor's defenses. In exchange, he asked only one thing: spare my people. They did not choose this war. Only Vorith did. Admiral Suho read the message and replied with 3 words. We agree. Thank you. The final assault on Nethera Prime was about to begin. Emperor Vorith refused to surrender, even as human ships filled the skies above Nethera Prime, even as his generals begged him to negotiate. He stood on his balcony and shouted his defiance to the stars. We are Valari, he screamed. We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. We will not bow to animals from a primitive rock. His advisors exchanged worried looks. The same advisors who had whispered fears about humanity, who had convinced him to kill the diplomat, now saw the results of their counsel. And they were afraid. The human fleet did not immediately attack. Instead, Admiral Suho sent a message to every screen on the planet. People of Nethera Prime, we are not here to destroy you. We are here for one person, Emperor Vorith. He murdered our ambassador, a woman of peace who came with open hands and an open heart. He must face justice. Surrender him to us, and this war ends today. No more blood needs to be shed. The message played on repeat. In homes and offices, in military bases and schools, Valari citizens watched and listened. They looked at each other with questions in their eyes. Vorith ordered the message blocked, but it was too late. The humans had hacked into every system. The truth could not be stopped. Colonel Moonjia led the ground assault. She was 40 years old, a veteran of 3 wars, known for her calm under pressure and her absolute dedication to her soldiers. She had trained for this mission for 18 months. She knew every street of the capital city, every weakness in the palace defenses, thanks to Lord Keth's information. We go in quiet, she told her soldiers as they loaded into dropships. No unnecessary casualties. Our target is the Emperor. Everyone else gets a chance to surrender. They launched at midnight, when the purple moon hung low over the horizon. The dropships flew dark, without lights, invisible against the night sky. Valari radar stations had been destroyed in the first wave of attacks. No one saw them coming. Jihi's team landed in a park 2 kilometers from the Grand Palace. They moved through the empty streets like shadows, avoiding patrols, disabling security systems. Valari guards found themselves stunned by weapons that made no sound, waking up hours later in restraints with no memory of what had happened by dawn. They had reached the Grand Plaza, Ga stood in the same spot where Park Gina had been executed. She looked at the stones beneath her feet, wondering if any of them still carried traces of human blood. "For you, sister," she whispered. "We are here." The palace was heavily defended, but the defenders were demoralized. They had heard the rumors. They knew their fleet was destroyed, their outposts captured, their emperor abandoned by his own people. When human soldiers appeared at the gates with weapons ready, many simply put down their arms. Not all. Some fought. They were brave, Ga had to admit. They believed in their emperor, in their empire, and everything they had been taught since childhood. But belief was not enough against human determination. The battle for the palace lasted 2 hours. When it was over, human forces controlled every room, every hallway, every secret passage. Only one place remained, the Emperor's private chambers. Ga approached the door with her weapon raised. Behind her stood 20 soldiers, the best of the best. "Emperor Varath," she called out. "This is Colonel Moon Ga of the United Terran Army. You are surrounded. Your guards are defeated. Come out peacefully, and you will be treated fairly." Silence. Then a voice, high and desperate. "You cannot do this. I am the Emperor. I am divine." Ga almost laughed. "You are a murderer. You killed an innocent woman who came to you in peace. Now open this door, or we will open it for you." More silence. Then the sound of mechanisms clicking, and the door swung open. Emperor Varath stood in the center of the room, surrounded by his last loyal guards. But the guards were not fighting. They were standing with their hands raised, their weapons on the ground. "We surrender," one of them said. "Enough, enough death." Varath's face twisted with rage. "Traitors, cowards. I will have you all executed." "You will execute no one," Ga said calmly. She walked toward him, her boots loud on the marble floor. "Your reign is over." The Emperor backed away until he hit the wall. His 4 eyes were wide with fear now, all his pride and arrogance melting away. "Please," he whispered. "Mercy. I will give you anything. Planets, treasure, whatever you want." Ga stopped in front of him. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a photograph. It showed a woman smiling, her eyes full of hope, her hand raised in greeting. "Do you know who this is?" Ga asked. Varath stared at the picture. His gray face went pale. The diplomat. Her name was Park Gina. She was 42 years old. She loved music and flowers and children. She came to you offering friendship. She believed that humans and Valari could build a better future together. Jihi's voice remained steady, but her eyes burned. "You killed her. You called her a spy. You sent her body back to us like trash. You told us to know our place." She put the photograph away. "Now you will face justice. Not revenge. Justice. Because that is what she would have wanted." Varath was taken to the Grand Plaza in chains. Thousands of Valari watched, some in shock, some in relief. The Emperor who had ruled them for 200 years now walked as a prisoner, surrounded by human soldiers. The trial was broadcast across every Valari world. Evidence was presented, records showing that Gina was innocent, that the espionage charges were fabricated, that Varath had ordered her death out of fear and paranoia. The trial lasted 6 days. At the end, Varath was found guilty of murder, but he was not executed. Gia had argued against it, and Admiral Suho had agreed. "Death is too easy," Jihei said. "Let him live. Let him spend the rest of his life knowing what he did. Let him remember her face every day until he dies." Varath was sentenced to life imprisonment on a barren moon at the edge of Valari space. His only company would be recordings of Gina's final speech, playing on repeat, forever. As he was led away, Ga watched without satisfaction. Revenge would not bring Gina back. Nothing would. but justice had been served. And now, perhaps, something better could begin. 1 year after the death of Park Gina, President Yoon Do-won stood in the Grand Plaza of Nathara Prime, the same plaza where she had been executed. The same stones that had been stained with her blood. But today, those stones were covered with flowers. Thousands of them, brought by Valari citizens who wanted to show their shame and sorrow. White flowers from a dozen worlds, forming a carpet of peace where there had once been only violence. Do-won looked out at the crowd. Humans and Valari stood together, side by side, watching and waiting. Behind him stood Admiral Suho, General Yoonbi, Captain Taiwu, Colonel Jie, and Lord Keth, the people who had fought the war, the people who would now build the peace. "We gather here today," Do-won began, his voice carried by speakers across the plaza and broadcast to 100 worlds, not to celebrate victory. War is never something to celebrate. We gather to remember, to honor, and to begin again. He paused, looking at the faces before him. Valari faces, gray and four-eyed, filled with uncertainty. Human faces, tired but hopeful. 1 year ago, a woman stood in this very place. Her name was Park Gina. She came to your world not with weapons, but with hope. She believed that humans and Valari could be friends. She believed that our differences made us stronger, not weaker. She believed in peace. Do-won's voice grew heavy. She was killed for that belief. Murdered by an emperor who feared what she represented. Her body was sent home like cargo, with a message telling us to know our place. He let the words hang in the air. We answered that message. We came here with our ships and our soldiers. We fought your fleets and captured your worlds. We dragged your emperor from his throne and made him face justice. Now his voice softened. But we did not come for revenge. We did not burn your cities or murder your people. We did not do to you what was done to us. Because that is not who we are. That is not what Gina would have wanted. He stepped forward toward the Valari delegation. She wanted peace. She wanted friendship. She wanted a future where our children could look up at the stars and see not enemies, but neighbors. She died for that dream. And we will not let her death be meaningless. Lord Keth stepped forward to meet him. The young Valari lord had tears in his 4 eyes. He had lost friends in the war, colleagues who had chosen the wrong side. But he had also gained something, hope. On behalf of the Valari people, Keth said, his voice shaking, I offer our deepest apology. What Emperor Vorath did was wrong. It was evil. We cannot undo it. But we can honor the woman he killed by building the future she dreamed of. He extended his hand, the Valari gesture of peace. Do-won took it. The crowd erupted in cheers, both human and Valari. Soldiers who had fought each other weeks ago now embraced. Children who had grown up fearing, humans now waved at the strange creatures from the blue planet. The Treaty of Nathara was signed that day. Its terms were fair but firm. The Valari Empire would become the Valari Federation, a union of free worlds rather than conquered subjects. They would dismantle their offensive military and pay reparations to Earth. They would teach the truth of what happened to Park Gina in their schools, so that future generations would never forget done in exchange. Humanity offered partnership, trade, technology, a seat at the table of galactic civilization, and something more. Dr. Han Yuri, the old woman who had built the weapons of war, now shared her greatest invention, the improved faster-than-light drive. She gave it freely, not just to the Valari, but to every species in the known galaxy. I built weapons because I had to, she said at the ceremony. But I always wanted to build bridges. Let this drive carry not warships, but explorers. Let it bring not death, but discovery. Let it be my gift to a galaxy that can finally know peace. The new Galactic Council was established, with humans and Valari as founding members. Other species, watching from the edges of known space, began to reach out. The galaxy that had feared the Valari Empire now looked to Earth with curiosity and respect. Admiral Big-Suho retired after the treaty was signed. He returned to Korea, to a small house by the sea, where he spent his remaining years writing about the war and the woman whose death had started it all. "She was the best of us," he wrote in his memoirs. "She went to the stars carrying our hopes. When they killed her, they thought they were ending a threat. Instead, they woke a sleeping giant. They united a divided world. They turned peaceful explorers into warriors." He paused, looking out at the ocean. "But even in our anger, we remembered her. We fought with honor because she had lived with honor. We showed mercy because she had believed in mercy. In the end, we won not through hatred, but through love. Love for her. Love for each other. Love for what we could become." Captain Shin Tai-woo became the first human ambassador to the reformed Valari worlds. The man who had led the first attack now worked to heal the wounds of war. He thought of his sister often, and of Gina, and he channeled his grief into building something better. Carl Moon Jiwei returned to Earth. She was offered promotions and honors, but she refused them all. Instead, she planted a garden outside the United Terran Council building. At its center, she placed a statue of Park Gina, one hand extended in greeting, the other holding an olive branch. The inscription at the base was simple: "She came in peace. We answered with justice." Let this be our legacy, that we protect those who cannot protect themselves, and we never forget those who gave everything for a better tomorrow. Years passed. The galaxy changed. Human ships traveled to distant stars, meeting new species, building new alliances. The war with the Valari became history, then legend, then a story parents told their children. But the statue remained. And every year, on the anniversary of Gina's death, people gathered in the garden to remember. Humans and Valari, side by side, laying flowers at the feet of a woman who had believed in peace, because she had been right. In the end, she had been right all along. Not all battles are won with weapons. Some are won with words. Some are won with sacrifice. Some are won simply by believing in something better and refusing to let that belief die. Park Gina had believed. And because of her, the galaxy was finally beginning to believe too. Above the garden, the stars shone bright. Somewhere out there, ships carry humans and Valari to new worlds, new adventures, new possibilities. And in a small house by the sea, an old admiral smiled as he finished his final chapter. "Know your place," he wrote. "They told us to know our place. And we do. Our place is among the stars. Our place is in the future. Our place is wherever hope still lives and wherever peace is still possible. That is the human place. That is our place. And we will never, ever forget it." The end.